Daehyun pushed his cleaning cart down the long white corridor of the Galactic Council station. The wheels squeaked slightly, a sound he had grown used to over 7 years of work. His blue uniform was clean but worn at the edges. In his hand he held a mop that had seen better days. Around him, aliens of every shape and size walked past without looking at him. A tall being with purple skin and 4 arms strode by, talking loudly into a communication device. A small floating creature that looked like a ball of light zipped overhead. 2 guards with scales and sharp teeth stood at a doorway, their weapons gleaming. None of them saw Daehyun. To them, he was invisible. Just another human doing the work nobody else wanted to do. Daehyun did not mind. He liked the quiet. He liked the routine. Every morning he woke up in the small human quarters on level 42. He ate breakfast with his friend Minho, who worked in waste management. Then he cleaned floors, emptied trash, and kept the station running smoothly. At the end of each month, he sent most of his credits back to Earth, to his mother in Busan who needed medicine for her weak heart. Today was different, though. The entire station buzzed with energy. Daehyun had been cleaning since dawn, preparing for the arrival of someone important. Emperor Valtros of the Krithian Empire was coming to the station. Valtros ruled over 40% of known space. His empire stretched across thousands of worlds. Beings feared him, beings respected him, and today he was coming to claim something ancient and powerful. Daehyun reached the restricted section of the archaeological wing. Normally, he was not allowed here, but today every surface needed to be spotless. The head of station security had personally unlocked the doors and told him to make everything shine. Daehyun nodded and went to work. Inside the large chamber, Daehyun saw it. The throne of ascendancy sat in the center of the room under bright lights. It was made of a metal that seemed to shift colors when he looked at it. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly. The throne was huge, built for someone much larger than a human. Scientists and researchers had discovered it 3 months ago in an old vault deep in the station's forgotten levels. They said it was millions of years old. They said it belonged to the progenitors, an ancient race that disappeared long before any current civilization existed. The throne was supposed to recognize true rulers. Legends said that when the rightful heir sat upon it, the throne would grant them authority over all civilizations. It would prove they were meant to lead. Emperor Valtros believed he was that ruler. He was coming to take the throne and show the entire galaxy that his empire was legitimate, blessed by the ancients themselves. Daehyun started mopping the floor around the throne. He worked carefully, making sure not to touch the artifact. The scientist had told everyone to stay away from it. They said it had security systems that could activate if disturbed. Daehyun respected their warning. He had no desire to cause trouble. As he worked, he thought about home. He thought about his mother's last message telling him she was feeling better. He thought about the small apartment they shared before he left Earth to find work. Earth was not doing well in the galactic economy. Humans were seen as weak, primitive, and useful only for basic labor. Most aliens looked down on them. But Daehyun did not let it bother him. He had a job. He had purpose. That was enough. His mop slipped. The handle bumped against the base of the throne. Daehyun froze. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the symbols on the throne flared bright. A loud alarm echoed through the chamber. Red lights flashed on the walls. Within seconds, guards rushed into the room. They grabbed Daehyun roughly, pulling him away from the throne. His mop clattered to the floor. His cleaning cart tipped over, spilling water across the polished surface. "What did you do?" one of the guards shouted. He was a Krithian, with green scales and yellow eyes that burned with anger. "I am sorry," Daehyun said quietly. "My mop slipped. I did not mean to touch it." "You activated a security protocol," another guard said. "This is a restricted artifact. You have committed a serious crime." Daehyun tried to explain, but they did not listen. They pulled him out of the chamber and dragged him through the corridors. Other workers stopped to watch. Daehyun saw Minho in the crowd, his face filled with worry. Daehyun gave him a small nod, trying to tell him it would be okay. They brought him to the Grand Assembly Hall. The room was enormous, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadows. Rows of seats rose up on all sides, filled with delegates from hundreds of worlds. At the far end, a platform held the most important figures in the galaxy: council members, ambassadors, military leaders. All of them turned to look as the guards threw Daehyun to his knees on the floor. "What is this?" a voice boomed. Emperor Valtros stepped forward from the crowd of dignitaries. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall. His scales were deep red and seemed to shimmer with an inner fire. His eyes were black and cold. When he moved, everyone nearby stepped back to give him space. "Your Majesty," one of the guards said, bowing low. This human triggered a security alert in the throne chamber. He touched the artifact. Valtros stared down at Daehyun. Then he laughed. It was a deep, cruel sound that echoed through the hall. A human? A janitor disturbed the throne of ascendancy. He laughed again, and many in the crowd joined him. Daehyun stayed on his knees, his eyes on the floor. His heart pounded in his chest. "This is perfect," Valtros said, still chuckling. "Here we are, preparing for the most important ceremony in galactic history. And a human, one of the janitors of the galaxy, nearly ruins it." He walked closer to Daehyun, his footsteps heavy. "Look at him. This is what humanity is. They exist to clean up after their betters. They serve, they obey. They are nothing more." The crowd murmured in agreement. Daehyun heard voices from all around. Humans should not be allowed near important artifacts. They cannot be trusted with anything valuable. They are barely civilized. Valtros raised a clawed hand for silence. "I will be merciful. After I claim the throne, after I prove my right to rule, I will execute this human quickly. It will be entertainment for the ceremony. A reminder of what happens when the weak forget their place." The crowd applauded. Daehyun felt his mouth go dry. He was going to die. For an accident. For a simple mistake while doing his job. "Bring the throne here," Valtros commanded. "I will not wait any longer. Let us begin." Guards rushed to obey. Within minutes, they brought the massive throne into the hall on a floating platform. They set it down on the stage in front of everyone. The symbols on its surface glowed brighter now, pulsing like a heartbeat. Valtros climbed the steps to the platform. He turned to face the crowd, his arms spread wide. "Witness history," he declared. "The throne of ascendancy recognizes its true master." But as he spoke, something strange happened. The throne's glow shifted. The symbols changed color from blue to gold. They pulsed faster. Everyone felt it. A vibration in the air. A hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Valtros turned to look at the throne, confused. Then his eyes went to Daehyun, still kneeling on the floor below. The throne was not reacting to the Emperor. It was reacting to the janitor. The hall went silent. The glow from the throne grew brighter, illuminating Daehyun in golden light. Ancient symbols appeared in the air around him, floating and spinning. Valtros's expression changed from confusion to rage. "What is this?" he roared. Nobody had an answer. They could only watch as the impossible unfolded before them. The throne of ascendancy had chosen, and it had not chosen an emperor. The golden light filled the grand assembly hall. Daehyun squeezed his eyes shut against the brightness. His skin tingled. The air around him felt thick, charged with energy he did not understand. When the light finally faded, he opened his eyes slowly. Every being in the hall stared at him. Thousands of eyes from hundreds of species. The silence was complete. Even Emperor Valtros stood frozen on the platform, his mouth slightly open. "Impossible," someone whispered. The words spread through the crowd like fire. "Impossible. Impossible. Impossible." Valtros recovered first, his face twisted with anger. "This is a trick," he snarled. "The humans have tampered with the throne. They have used their primitive technology to create this illusion. No tampering is possible, Your Majesty." A new voice spoke from the side of the hall. A human woman walked forward. She wore the white coat of a researcher. Her hair was pulled back and she carried a data tablet in her hands. "I am HimHFY, xenoarchaeologist assigned to study the throne. I have monitored it for 3 months. Nobody has touched it except for scanning equipment." Valtros pointed a clawed finger at her. "Then explain what just happened." HimHFY looked at Daehyun, then at her tablet. Her hands shook slightly as she read the data. The throne activated its recognition protocol. It has scanned everyone in this hall. It found a match. She paused, swallowing hard. "The match is him. The janitor. His name is Daehyun," another voice called out. Minho pushed through the crowd of guards at the back of the hall. "He is my friend. He is a good man. And you should use his name." A guard moved to stop Minho, but HimHFY held up her hand. "Let him through. We need to understand what is happening." Minho ran to Daehyun's side and helped him stand. "Are you okay?" he whispered. Daehyun nodded, though he was not sure if that was true. His legs felt weak. His mind spun with confusion. Heejin approached them carefully, her tablet still in hand. Daehyun, correct? When he nodded, she continued. I need to ask you some questions. Where are you from on Earth? Busan, Daehyun answered quietly. South Korea. Family history? Do you know your ancestry? Just normal people, workers. My grandfather was a fisherman. My mother works in a factory. He shook his head. There's nothing special about my family. Heejin tapped her tablet rapidly. The throne does not respond to power or wealth or conquest. We learned that from the progenitor texts. It responds to something else, something in the blood. What are you saying? Ambassador Krell stepped forward. He was an insectoid being with 4 arms and compound eyes. He served as the human representative on the council, though he rarely spoke in favor of humanity. Are you claiming this janitor has special blood? The progenitor seeded life across the galaxy millions of years ago, Heejin explained. They left genetic markers in some populations. The throne is designed to recognize these markers, to find beings who carry the strongest progenitor DNA. Many royal bloodlines carry progenitor markers. Valtros said coldly, My own family has been tested. We carry the blood of the ancients. You carry markers, yes, Heejin agreed. But according to these readings, Daehyun carries a concentration 40 times higher than any being ever tested. His genetic code is almost pure progenitor. She looked up from her tablet, her eyes wide. I do not understand how this is possible. The hall erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted. Guards argued. Some beings moved toward the exits. Others pushed forward to get a better look at Daehyun. Valtros slammed his fist on the platform railing. The metal crumpled under the impact. I do not accept this. The throne will prove itself. According to ancient law, any who claim the throne must sit upon it. False claimants are destroyed instantly. Their bodies turn to ash. He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Let the human sit on the throne. Let us see if he survives. Murmurs ran through the crowd. Some sounded excited. Others sounded horrified. Your Majesty, that is not necessary, Ambassador Krell said quickly. We can run more tests. We can verify the data. No. Valtros descended from the platform and walked toward Daehyun. The human will sit on the throne now, or I will assume he is a fraud and execute him for wasting our time. Heejin stepped between them. You cannot force him. The throne requires willing acceptance. Then let him choose willingly, Valtros said. Sit on the throne, human. Prove you are worthy. Or admit you are nothing and accept your death. Daehyun looked at the throne. It sat on the platform, gleaming under the lights. The symbols on its surface still glowed faintly. He thought about the stories he had heard. Ancient rulers who claimed the throne and gained power beyond imagination. False claimants who died screaming. He thought about his mother. If he died here, who would send her money? Who would pay for her medicine? But he also thought about Minho beside him. About Heejin, risking her position to defend him. About all the humans on the station who lived as invisible workers, looked down upon by everyone. I will sit on the throne, Daehyun said quietly. No, Minho grabbed his arm. You do not have to do this. If I refuse, he will kill me anyway, Daehyun replied. At least this way, maybe I can learn the truth. He pulled away gently and walked toward the platform. Each step felt heavy. The crowd parted before him, all eyes following his movement. He climbed the steps slowly. The throne seemed even larger up close, built for beings twice his size. Daehyun turned to face the assembly. Thousands of faces looked back at him. He saw fear in some eyes, curiosity in others. In Valtros's eyes, he saw only hate. Any last words, Janitor? Valtros asked mockingly. Daehyun thought for a moment. Then he said, I am just a cleaner. I do not want power. I do not want to rule. I only want to do my job and help my family. He took a breath. But if this throne chose me, then maybe it sees something I do not. Maybe it sees something worth more than strength or conquest. He sat down. The throne erupted in blinding white light. Daehyun felt heat rush through his body. Energy poured into him from the metal beneath him. The symbols on the throne blazed like stars. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The light expanded, filling the entire hall. Beings shielded their eyes. Some fell to their knees. The energy grew and grew until it seemed the station itself would break apart. Then suddenly it stopped. Daehyun opened his eyes. He was still alive, still sitting on the throne, but something had changed. The throne itself had transformed. The metal had flowed like water, reshaping itself around him. It fit him perfectly now, as if it had been made for someone exactly his size. Symbols appeared in the air above the throne. They formed words in every language simultaneously. Beings from every world could read them in their own tongue. The heir returns. Hyejin dropped her tablet. It clattered on the floor. "It is true," she whispered. "All of it is true." Valtros stared at Daehyun with pure rage. "No, I will not accept this. I will not bow to a human. I will not let a janitor claim power that belongs to me." He turned to his guards. "Seal the station. Nobody leaves. Send word to my fleet. We will take the throne by force if necessary." Alarms began to wail throughout the hall. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut over the exits. The Krithian guards moved into position, weapons ready. Ambassador Krell tried to speak. "Your Majesty, this is neutral territory. The Council will not allow—" "The Council will do nothing," Valtros interrupted. "My empire is too strong. My fleet too powerful. If I cannot have the throne's blessing, then nobody will." Daehyun stood up from the throne. His legs were steady now. Something had changed inside him. He felt different, stronger, more aware, but he did not understand what it meant. Hyejin ran to her fallen tablet and picked it up. Her fingers flew across the screen. "The throne is transmitting something," she called out. "Broadcasting on all frequencies." "Oh no, what is it?" Minho asked. She looked up, her face pale. "It is sending a signal across the entire galaxy. Unlocking something. The progenitor sites. Thousands of them. They are all activating at once." Outside the station, through the massive windows, lights began to appear in space. Distant stars suddenly glowed brighter. Ancient satellites that had been dark for millions of years came to life. A network of power spread across the visible cosmos. Every ship in range detected it. Every civilization with sensors saw it. The progenitor inheritance, hidden for eons, was awakening. And it had awakened because a human janitor sat on an ancient throne. The galaxy would never be the same again. The station shook, not from weapons or explosions, but from the sudden activation of systems that had been dormant for millions of years. Lights flickered. Ancient machinery hummed to life in forgotten sections. The very walls seemed to wake up. Daehyun stood beside the throne, watching chaos unfold around him. Delegates ran in every direction. Some tried to reach the sealed exits. Others argued with guards. A few simply stood frozen, staring at the lights appearing in space outside the windows. "We need to move you somewhere safe," Minho said, pulling at Daehyun's arm. "Valtros wants you dead. His guards are everywhere." Before Daehyun could respond, a new group entered the hall. They wore different uniforms than the Krithian guards. Black armor with white markings. Human security forces. A woman led them. She was tall and moved with the precise steps of a soldier. Her short hair was tied back and a long scar ran down her left cheek. She carried a plasma rifle like she knew how to use it. "I am Captain Yuna," she announced, her voice cutting through the noise. "Human security detail. By authority of the Earth Alliance, I am taking Daehyun into protective custody." "You have no authority here," a Krithian guard said, raising his weapon. Yuna did not raise hers. She simply looked at him with cold eyes. "The throne recognized a human as the progenitor heir. That makes this an Earth matter. Try to stop me and start a war." The Krithian guard hesitated. He looked toward Emperor Valtros, who stood on the far side of the hall, surrounded by advisors. Valtros waved his hand dismissively. "Let them take him. It does not matter. He will die when I destroy this station." Yuna's team formed a protective circle around Daehyun, Minho, and Hyejin. "Move," Yuna commanded. They hurried toward a side exit that led to the maintenance corridors. As they ran through the narrow passages, Hyejin kept checking her tablet. "The progenitor network is fully active now," she said, breathing hard. "I am getting data feeds from sites across the galaxy, archaeological locations we knew about, and thousands we did not." "What kind of sites?" Daehyun asked. "Everything. Weapon platforms, knowledge repositories, ancient shipyards." The progenitors left an entire infrastructure hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone with the right genetic key to unlock it. They reached a secure room in the human section of the station. Yuna posted guards at the door and activated a privacy shield. Inside, the walls were plain metal. A few chairs and a table. Nothing fancy. It was meant for emergency situations. "How long before Valtros attacks?" Minho asked. His fleet is 2 hours away, Yuna replied. He has called for his full battle group. Enough firepower to crack a planet. He would not destroy a council station, Hijin said. The other empires would never allow it. The other empires are scrambling to reach the progenitor sites, Yuna countered. Nobody is thinking about politics right now. They are thinking about power. Whoever controls those sites controls the galaxy. Daehyun sat down heavily in one of the chairs. His mind still felt strange, like there were thoughts in his head that were not his own. Memories at the edge of his consciousness. Why me? He asked quietly. Why did the throne choose me? Hijin set her tablet on the table and pulled up a holographic display. It showed a map of Earth with glowing points scattered across it. I have been researching this for the past hour, looking at human genetic data. The progenitors did not just seed life on random worlds. They were deliberate, careful. She zoomed in on Asia. Earth was different from other worlds. When the progenitors faced extinction, they needed a place to preserve their legacy, not just their technology, but their essence, their knowledge, their culture. They chose Earth, Daehyun said softly. Yes, they encoded everything into human DNA, made humanity living repositories of their civilization, but it was not distributed evenly. Some bloodlines carried more markers than others. She highlighted the Korean peninsula. Your ancestors, Daehyun. Generation after generation, the markers concentrated. Your family is not special because of wealth or power. They are special because they kept something alive without knowing it. Minho leaned forward. So Daehyun is not just human. He is part progenitor? All humans have progenitor DNA, Hijin explained. But Daehyun has the highest concentration ever recorded. When he sat on the throne, it recognized him as the closest thing to a progenitor that still exists in this galaxy. What does that mean? Daehyun asked. What am I supposed to do? Before anyone could answer, the room shook. Alarms blared throughout the station. Yuna pressed her hand to her ear, listening to her communication device. Her face went pale. Valtros is not waiting for his fleet. He is firing the station's own defense weapons at the human quarters. He is trying to kill you now. Another explosion. Closer this time. The lights flickered. We need to evacuate, Minho said urgently. Evacuate to where? Yuna replied. Valtros has locked down all the docking bays. The only ships allowed to leave are Krithian. Hijin stared at her tablet. There might be another way. The throne is not just ceremonial. According to these readings, it is connected to every progenitor site in the network, including defensive systems. You mean weapons? Yuna asked. Defense platforms, shields, technology that makes our current weapons look like toys. Hijin looked at Daehyun. But they need activation. They need someone with the genetic authority to turn them on. Me, Daehyun said. Yes. The room shook again. Sparks flew from a panel on the wall. Smoke began to fill the air. How do I do it? Daehyun asked, coughing. You need to reconnect with the throne. There is an interface beneath it. A direct neural link. The progenitors used it to control their systems across vast distances. Hijin grabbed his arm. But Daehyun, if you connect, you will be accepting the inheritance fully. Your mind will merge with the progenitor network. You will have access to all their knowledge, all their power. What is the problem with that? Minho asked. The progenitors died out because they refused to pass their power to unworthy heirs, Hijin said. The system has safeguards. If Daehyun connects and the network judges him unworthy, it will kill him. Instantly. Silence filled the room, broken only by distant explosions. And if I do nothing? Daehyun asked. Valtros destroys the station. We all die anyway. Yes, Daehyun stood up. He thought about his mother on Earth. He would never see her again either way. He thought about Minho, who had been his friend when everyone else ignored him. About Hijin, who could have stayed silent but chose to speak the truth. About Yuna and her team, willing to die protecting someone they barely knew. He thought about all the humans across the galaxy, working in mines, cleaning stations, doing jobs nobody else wanted, treated as lesser, as invisible. Maybe the throne saw something in him not because he was special, but because he understood what it meant to serve. To work without recognition, to find value in things others considered beneath them. Take me to the throne, he said. Yuna opened the door. Her team formed up around them again. The throne room is 5 levels up. We will have to fight through Krithian forces. Then we fight, Minho said, picking up a piece of broken metal pipe from the floor. They moved quickly through the corridors. Twice they encountered Krithian guards. Yuna's team handled them efficiently, using stun weapons to avoid killing. They were soldiers, but they were not murderers. When they reached the Grand Assembly Hall, they found it in ruins. The beautiful chamber was scorched and broken. Bodies lay scattered. Some beings had been trampled in the panic. Others had been shot. The throne still sat on its platform untouched. It glowed softly, waiting. Dahyun approached it slowly. Heejin walked beside him, her tablet showing him what to do. Place your hand on the armrest. The interface will open. When it does, you need to make a choice. Accept or refuse. There is no middle ground. What should I choose? Dahyun asked. Heejin smiled sadly. I cannot tell you that. The throne will only respond to your true choice. Your honest decision. Dahyun reached the platform. He climbed the steps. Behind him, he heard the sound of more guards approaching. Yuna and her team took defensive positions. Hurry, Yuna called. Dahyun placed his hand on the throne's armrest. The metal felt warm, alive. Symbols appeared beneath his palm. The surface opened, revealing a complex interface made of light and circuitry. He felt a pull, an invitation. The network wanted to connect with him. But it also asked a question. Not in words, in feelings, in understanding. Why do you seek this power? Dahyun closed his eyes. He could refuse. Let someone else figure this out. Go back to being invisible. Back to being safe. But he thought about the way Valtros had laughed at him, called him a janitor like it was an insult, looked at him and seen nothing of value. He thought about every alien who had walked past him without seeing him. Every voice that said humans were weak, lesser, only good for serving. He thought about his mother working until her hands bled to feed him as a child. About Minho, finding dignity in waste management. About Hyejin, studying for years to earn respect in a galaxy that did not want to give it. Power for himself? No, he did not want that. But power to protect? Power to change how humans were seen? Power to prove that worth came from character, not conquest? Yes, he wanted that. I accept, he thought. The throne blazed with light. Dahyun felt his consciousness expand, reaching out through the network. He saw every progenitor site, felt every system activate. Knowledge poured into him. Not just facts, but understanding. He saw why the progenitors had died. They had grown too proud, too certain of their superiority. They had forgotten that true strength came from serving something greater than yourself. They chose humanity not because humans were strong, but because humans remembered how to be humble. The light faded. Dahyun opened his eyes. He was different now, changed. He could feel the network in his mind, could access systems across the galaxy with a thought. He looked up at the windows, at Valtros's ships approaching, at the weapons charging to fire. With a thought, he activated the ancient shields. Technology that had not been used in a million years came online around the station. A barrier of pure energy formed, invisible but absolute. The Krithian weapons fired. The blasts hit the shield and disappeared harmlessly. Dahyun stood from the throne. His janitor uniform was torn and dirty, but he stood tall. No more, he said quietly. The galaxy heard him. Through the network, through every activated site, his words carried across space. No more will strength be measured by cruelty. No more will worth be measured by power. He raised his hand. Every Krithian ship in the sector lost power. Not destroyed, just disabled. Weapons offline. Engines dead. Floating helplessly in space. Emperor Valtros, watching from his flagship, felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear. Around the station, their engines dark, their weapons cold. Inside each ship, crews scrambled to understand what had happened. Systems showed no damage. Everything was simply turned off, as if someone had flipped a switch. On the flagship, Emperor, Valtros gripped the arms of his command chair so hard the metal bent. Report, he snarled at his officers. All systems offline, Your Majesty, the ship's commander replied, his voice shaking. We are trying to reboot, but nothing responds. It is like the ship does not recognize our commands anymore. Then use the backup systems. Use manual controls. We tried, Your Majesty. Everything is locked out. The commander looked at his instruments in confusion. It is as if the ships are refusing to obey us. Valtros stood and walked to the observation window. He could see the EAD station in the distance, protected by the shimmering barrier of ancient energy. He could see the throne room through the transparent sections, though the details were too far to make out clearly. A human did this, he thought. A janitor. The idea was poison in his mind. Send a message to the station, he commanded. Tell them we will negotiate. Inside the Grand Assembly Hall, Daehyun felt the message arrive. The network showed it to him, along with thousands of other communications flooding in from across the galaxy. Every major power wanted to talk. Every civilization wanted to understand what had happened. But Daehyun focused on Valtros's message. He could feel the Emperor's rage through the words, barely concealed beneath false politeness. He wants to talk, Daehyun said aloud. Yuna stepped beside him. Her team had secured the hall, and more human security forces were arriving. Do not trust him. Valtros does not negotiate. He only pretends until he can strike. I know. The network had given Daehyun more than just control of ancient technology. It had given him knowledge of history, of politics, of every trick and strategy used by rulers throughout galactic history. He understood Valtros better than the Emperor understood himself. Hyejin approached, still clutching her tablet though she no longer needed it. The throne's network fed data directly to any device now, if Daehyun allowed it. What will you do? She asked. Daehyun looked around the ruined hall, at the scorched walls and broken seats, at the bodies that had not yet been removed. People had died here, aliens and humans both, all because of pride and power. I will talk to him, Daehyun said. But not here, not in person. He reached out through the network and activated the station's communication systems. Not just voice, full holographic projection. He sent the signal to every ship in range, to every delegate who had fled the hall, to stations and planets across the sector. This is Daehyun, he said. His voice carried to millions of ears. His image appeared on countless screens, still wearing his torn janitor uniform, still looking like an ordinary man. I am the one the throne recognized. I am the one who activated the progenitor network. He paused, gathering his thoughts. The network whispered suggestions to him, ways to sound impressive, powerful, words that would make people fear him. He ignored them all. I did not ask for this. I did not want this. Yesterday I was cleaning floors and sending money home to my mother. Today I have power that could reshape the galaxy. He looked directly at where he knew Valtros would be watching. But power is not the same as worth, and strength is not the same as righteousness. On the Crithian flagship, Valtros laughed bitterly. Listen to him, giving speeches like a philosopher. He thinks words will protect him. But his officers were not laughing. They watched the human on their screens with something like hope. Even Crithians could grow tired of endless conquest. Daehyun continued. Emperor Valtros tried to kill me today, tried to kill everyone on this station, because he believed power belonged to him by right of strength, because he could not accept that the ancient throne saw something different, something he does not value. Service, humility, the willingness to work without glory. Minho smiled at that. He knew Daehyun meant it. His friend had never wanted glory. The progenitors left their technology to be found, but they also left a test. The throne does not choose based on strength. It chooses based on character, on genetic memory of values worth preserving. Daehyun's voice grew stronger, and it chose a janitor, because janitors know the value of work nobody else wants to do. We know that every job matters, that there is dignity in service. He raised his hand and the holographic displays shifted. They showed the disabled Crithian fleet. I could destroy these ships right now. Every weapon in the progenitor network is under my control. I could glass the entire Crithian homeworld with a thought. Valtros tensed. His hand moved toward the emergency communicator, ready to call for evacuation. But I will not, Daehyun said, because that is not what power should be used for. The progenitors died because they forgot that. They became so strong they saw everyone else as beneath them. They lost the ability to value anything except their own supremacy. The holographic display changed again. Now it showed Earth, small and blue, hanging in space. Humans have been called the janitors of the galaxy. We clean, we serve. We do the work others consider beneath them. Daehyun's eyes hardened. But we remember something the mighty have forgotten. Everyone matters. Every being has worth. And true leadership means lifting others up, not standing on their backs. He turned his attention directly to Valtros now. The holograms focused on the flagship. I am going to release your ships now, Emperor. You will have full power restored. You can leave peacefully, or you can try to attack again. If you attack, I will disable you again. I will do it as many times as necessary. I will not kill you because life is precious even when beings act without honor. His voice dropped. But your weapons are mine to control now. Any Crithian ship that approaches this station, or Earth, or any world under my protection will simply stop working. You have a choice. Accept the new reality, or spend eternity trying to fight technology you cannot match. Valtros stared at the screen. Every instinct screamed at him to fight, to rage, to refuse this humiliation. But he was not stupid. He had not built an empire by fighting battles he could not win. Very well, human, he said, his voice like broken glass. We will withdraw, but this is not over. Yes, it is, Daehyun replied quietly. It is over because I say it is over. Go home, Emperor. Think about what kind of legacy you want to leave. The connection ended. Moments later, power returned to the Crithian ships. Engines flared back to life. Weapons systems rebooted. Yuna tensed. If they fire now, they will not, Daehyun said. He could feel it through the network, could sense the calculations happening on every Crithian ship. The risk versus reward. The certain knowledge that any attack would fail. One by one, the warships turned and began the journey back to Crithian space. The fleet that had come to destroy the station retreated without firing a single shot. In the Grand Assembly Hall, the remaining delegates watched in stunned silence. A human had just defeated the most powerful empire in the galaxy, without violence, without bloodshed, with nothing but control and conviction. Ambassador Krell approached slowly. His compound eyes reflected the light from the throne. What happens now? He asked. Daehyun felt the weight of the question. What did happen now? The network gave him options, paths he could take, ways to use this power. He could declare himself emperor, rule the galaxy with the progenitor technology, force peace at the point of ancient weapons. He could withdraw entirely, hide Earth behind the network's shields and let the galaxy sort out its own problems. He could share the technology equally, give every civilization access to progenitor knowledge and hope they used it wisely. All of these paths showed him their endings. The network ran simulations, predicted outcomes. None of them were perfect. Every choice had consequences, but one path showed something different. Not control, not isolation, not chaos. Balance. I want to call a new session of the Galactic Council, Daehyun said. Everyone who was here today, plus representatives from every major civilization. To do what? Hyejin asked. To write new rules. Daehyun walked down from the platform. His legs were tired. His body ached. But his mind was clear. The progenitor sites are open now. Every civilization can see them. Many will try to claim them. This could start 1,000 wars. Or, he continued, we can agree to share, to use this technology to lift everyone up instead of giving some beings advantages over others. They will never agree to that, Yuna said. The strong always want to stay strong. Then I will make them agree. Daehyun smiled, but there was steel in it. I control the network. I decide who gets access to which sites. Any civilization that refuses to accept fair terms gets nothing. Minho laughed. You are going to hold the entire galaxy hostage until they play nice? Yes. That is the most janitor solution I have ever heard, Minho said, grinning. Force everyone to clean up their own mess. Over the next hours, messages went out. The council would reconvene in 3 days. Every major power was invited. They were told to bring proposals for how the progenitor inheritance should be distributed. They were also told, in very clear language, that this was not optional. Daehyun spent that time learning. The network taught him about the technology, about the progenitors themselves. He saw their history, their triumphs and failures. He understood now why they had died. They had become gods, and gods do not think mortals matter. Humans had stayed mortal, stayed humble, and maybe, Daehyun thought, that was exactly why the throne had chosen him. On the third day, the council chamber filled again. This time there was no chaos, no shouting. Every delegate sat quietly, waiting. Daehyun stood before them, not on a platform, not on the throne, just standing on the same level as everyone else. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Let us begin." And the galaxy listened because a janitor told them they had cleaning to do. The rebuilt council chamber looked different now. The throne sat at the back of the room, but Daehyun had ordered it moved. Not at the center, not on a raised platform, just against the wall where everyone could see it but nobody could claim it towered over them. Instead, the room now held a circular table. Every delegate sat at the same height, no one above or below anyone else. "This is unusual," Ambassador Krell said as he took his seat. His 4 arms arranged data tablets in front of him. "The council has always used traditional seating, ranked by power and influence. Things change," Daehyun replied simply. He sat in a chair like all the others. He had changed clothes. No longer wore his janitor uniform. Instead, he dressed in simple gray. No symbols of rank, no decorations, just clean, practical clothing. Over 3 days, delegates had arrived from across the galaxy. Some came willingly. Others came because they were afraid of what would happen if they refused. All of them wanted access to the progenitor sites. Daehyun had spent those 3 days talking to people, not making grand speeches, just conversations. He spoke with scientists about what they hoped to learn, with military leaders about their security concerns, with ordinary beings who worked on the station about what they needed to feel safe. Minho had helped. He knew how to talk to workers, how to make them comfortable. Together, they gathered information that no leader had bothered to collect before. What did regular people actually want? The answer was simple: safety, fair treatment, the chance to build a decent life. Now, as the session began, Daehyun stood. "I want to thank everyone for coming. I know this meeting represents many different hopes and fears. Some of you want weapons, some want knowledge, some want to make sure no one gets advantages over you." He activated a holographic display above the table. It showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of glowing points. Each one was a progenitor site. These sites contained technology beyond our current understanding. Weapons that could destroy solar systems, shields that could protect entire worlds, medical advances that could cure any disease, manufacturing systems that could end scarcity. He paused. "And all of it is active now. All of it is accessible through the network that recognized me." A murmur ran through the crowd. Everyone could see the implications. "You control all of it," said Delegate Vorn, a crystalline being whose species specialized in trade. "Which means you control the entire galactic economy. The balance of power, everything." "Yes," Daehyun agreed. "And that is a problem." The delegates looked confused. "I am one person. I will make mistakes. I have biases I do not even know about. I will die eventually." Daehyun smiled slightly. "I am not a god. I am a janitor who got very lucky. Or unlucky, depending on how you look at it." Hyejin stood from her seat. Over the past 3 days, she had become Daehyun's unofficial advisor. "We have a proposal. A way to manage the progenitor inheritance fairly." She activated her own display. "The Progenitor Trust, a rotating council of representatives from every civilization. Each civilization gets 1 vote regardless of size or power. Decisions require a 2/3 majority. Humans would have the same single vote as everyone else?" Ambassador Krell asked, surprised. "Yes. Even though you control the network?" "Especially because we control the network," Daehyun said. "Power needs limits. If humans have the same vote as everyone else, then you can hold us accountable. You can work with us or oppose us fairly. What stops you from simply taking control anyway?" asked a Krithian delegate. Not Valtros himself. The Emperor had sent a representative claiming he was too busy to attend. Everyone knew he was too humiliated to face Daehyun directly. "The throne," Daehyun answered. He gestured to where it sat against the wall. It chose me based on specific values, service, humility. If I betray those values, I believe it will reject me. The network will close, and we will be back where we started. You believe? The Crithian delegate pressed. You do not know? I do not know, but I am not willing to test it. Daehyun met the delegate's eyes. Are you? Silence answered him. Nobody wanted to risk losing access to the progenitor sites. Captain Yuna spoke next. She represented Earth's military interests. There are security concerns. These sites include weapons. In the wrong hands, they could be devastating. Agreed, Daehyun said, which is why the proposal includes strict controls. Weapon sites remain locked. Only defensive systems will be opened initially. Shields, medical technology, manufacturing. And who decides what counts as defensive? Another delegate asked. The Trust, with the 2/3 majority. Hyejin brought up a detailed document. We have created categories, clear definitions, and a review process for disputed cases. For hours they debated. Some delegates argued for more control. Others wanted more freedom. Daehyun listened to all of it. He let them argue. Let them find compromises. The network whispered suggestions to him. Ways to manipulate the conversation. To guide them toward his preferred outcome. He ignored it. These beings needed to feel like they had real input, real choice. Otherwise, the agreement would mean nothing. Late into the session, Emperor Valtros himself appeared. Not in person. Through hologram, his image shimmered at an empty seat. I see you have been talking without me, he said coldly. You were invited, Daehyun replied calmly. You chose not to come. I will not sit in a circle like a common delegate. Then you can stand. Or you can appear by hologram. Or you can send a representative. Daehyun's voice was mild. But if you want access to progenitor sites in Crithian territory, you need to be part of this agreement. Valtros's image flickered with barely contained rage. You are dictating terms to the Crithian Empire. No. I am offering the same terms to everyone. You just do not like being treated equally. The other delegates shifted uncomfortably. Nobody talked to Valtros this way. Not if they valued their lives, but Valtros could not do anything. His fleet was still functional, but Daehyun had proven he could disable it at will. And without progenitor technology, the Crithian Empire would fall behind every other civilization. What are the terms? Valtros finally asked, his voice like grinding stone. Hyejin detailed them. Equal representation. No special privileges for powerful empires. Limits on weapons research. Mandatory sharing of certain technologies. Protections for weaker civilizations against exploitation. And what stops you from changing the rules later? Valtros asked. Once we agree, what stops the Trust from becoming just another council? Another place where the strong dominate the weak? It was a good question. Daehyun had thought about it a lot. The throne, he said again. It is connected to the network. It monitors the Trust. If the Trust becomes corrupt, if it starts serving the powerful instead of everyone, I believe the network will notice. Will react, and do what? I do not know exactly. But the progenitors built safeguards into everything. They died because they became corrupt. They would not create a system that could become corrupt the same way. More belief, Valtros said mockingly. You are gambling the galaxy on faith. Yes, but it is faith in values, not in people. Daehyun stood and walked to the throne. He placed his hand on it. The progenitors believed in something. Service, growth. The idea that civilization should lift everyone up, not just the strong. If we follow those values, the system works. If we do not, we lose access. It makes us accountable, he continued. Not to weapons or power, but to principles. I hate it, Valtros said flatly. I know, but I will agree to it. Because I have no choice. You have a choice, Daehyun corrected. You can refuse and lose access to the sites. You can try to fight and lose. Or you can accept that the galaxy is changing. That worth is no longer measured by conquest alone. Valtros's hologram stared at him for a long moment. Then it vanished without another word. I will take that as agreement, Daehyun said to the remaining delegates. Several of them laughed nervously. The vote happened 2 hours later. Not everyone was happy. Many civilizations wanted more favorable terms, but faced with the alternative of being left behind, they agreed. The progenitor trust was established. Representatives were chosen. Rules were set. Daehyun officially transferred authority over the non-weapon sites to the Trust, keeping only a veto power for clear violations of the founding principles. When it was done, when the agreements were signed and witnessed, Daehyun felt something release in his chest, a tension he had been carrying for days. He found Minho in the station's cafeteria later that evening. His friend was eating noodles and watching a sports broadcast from Earth. "How does it feel to be the most powerful person in the galaxy?" Minho asked, grinning. "Exhausting." Daehyun sat down with his own tray. "Station food. Nothing fancy. It tasted like home. I gave away most of the power. The Trust controls the sites now. You kept the weapons. Someone has to, until we know the Trust can be trusted." Daehyun ate quietly for a moment. "I hope I am doing the right thing." "You are." Minho pointed his chopsticks at the broadcast. "Earth is going crazy, by the way. Every human in the galaxy is celebrating. They are calling you a hero." "I am not a hero. I just sat on a chair." "You did more than that. You stood up to Valtros. You created a system where humans have an equal voice, where everyone has an equal voice." Minho's expression grew serious. "Do you know what that means to people who have been treated as inferior their whole lives?" Daehyun thought about it. About all the times he had been invisible. All the times aliens had walked past him without seeing him. "I think I do." "Good, because they need you to remember it. You are powerful now, but you came from the same place they did." Minho smiled. "Do not forget you are a janitor." "I will not. Actually, I have been thinking about that." "About what?" "I want to keep working. 1 day a week, cleaning." Daehyun saw Minho's confused look and explained. "I need to remember what it feels like. To do work that nobody notices. To see the parts of the station that leaders never visit. To stay connected to regular people. You are strange, my friend. Maybe, but it feels right." 6 months passed. The Trust functioned better than anyone expected. Not perfectly. There were arguments, disagreements. Some civilizations tried to cheat the rules. But the system held. The network shared technology fairly. Medical advances spread across the galaxy. Manufacturing improvements lifted millions out of poverty. Humanity's status changed, slowly at first, then faster. Being human was no longer an insult. It was neutral. Sometimes even respected. Daehyun kept his word. Every week he spent 1 full shift cleaning. He wore his old uniform, pushed his cart through corridors, talked with other workers about their lives and concerns. One day, while mopping near the entrance to the Trust's main chamber, a young alien approached him. She was small, her species one that Daehyun had never seen before. They came from a world that had just gained council membership. "Excuse me," she said shyly. "Are you Daehyun?" "The Throne Keeper." He stopped mopping and smiled at her. "Yes, can I help you?" "Is it true that you still clean floors even though you do not have to?" "It is true." "Why?" Daehyun thought about how to answer. "Because this work matters. All work matters. If I forget that, I forget why the throne chose me in the first place." The young alien looked at his mop, then at the gleaming floor behind him. "Can I try?" He handed her the mop, showed her how to wring it out, how to push it in smooth strokes. She practiced carefully, concentrating hard. "You are good at this," he said. She beamed with pride. "Thank you. I want to work here someday. Help keep the station clean. It is good work, honest work." She handed the mop back and hurried off to join her family. Daehyun watched her go, smiling. The throne sat in its chamber nearby. He could feel it through the network, could sense its approval, though that might have been his imagination. But he did not think so. The throne had chosen him for a reason. Not because he wanted power, not because he was special, but because he understood that every person mattered. Every job had dignity. Every being deserved respect. And he would keep cleaning floors to remember it. Because in the end, leadership was not about standing above others. It was about standing with them, working beside them, serving something larger than yourself. The throne had taught him that, and he would never forget.